It is 8:28 in Kitsap County. It is Tuesday, June 20th, 2023. Man, I've got a conference that I'm preparing for, and I've got to come on and address the latest on my Facebook. So I need to do that. I'm going to let a few people come in before I get going, just to make sure that hopefully I only have to go over this once. But we'll see. We shall see. Let me see. I also need to pull this up. Now, what's weird is I could see the response on the phone, but I couldn't see it. There we go. Okay, I've got it. Let me go ahead and put her response over here. And then I will address as we shall go. As you know, as you see, this is ongoing with Daryl Riley. And obviously, this has split the Black community. And you'll hear me talk about it in a little bit because I'm being accused of doing this for votes, which is laughable in and of itself and makes no sense, right? Uh, Clearly, this was going to split the Black community, right? And I would probably be blamed for that. So if that's the case, then doing it for votes, how could I win an election that way? I mean, we have some really intelligent people that are, coming up with some pretty wild hypotheses that make absolutely no sense at all. Period. Okay. Matter of fact, I'd probably do the opposite. And if I really wanted to win, and it was truly about votes, I'd probably extend an olive branch and just let it roll under the rug, like he's been allowed to do for years, right? That would be far easier. Just extend the olive branch, whether I believe it or not, and just say, "Oh, hey, everything's all good. Get that vote, get this vote, and then everything's good," right? That's probably more logical. And so when you take a look at Occam's razor, that's exactly what you're left with, right? The simplest uh, answer is probably that answer. We're going to get into a YouTube video tonight because I think it really illustrates the problem that we have in the Black community right now. Okay. 23 people hit, one person gone outside of Chicago in Willowbrook during Juneteenth of all days. Black people done. And shout out to the Millionaire Morning Show with Anton Daniels. I think, again, this is a perfect illustration of what we have going on here. And part of our problem that, again, isn't unique to Kitsap County, right? We have these issues throughout the nation, which I believe is one of the reasons why we see so much violence in our inner city, right? You could talk about systemic racism and all kinds of other things, but some of these things are unforced errors, right? At some point, we do have to take accountability for our actions. And I know, again, this isn't popular, right? So please rest assured, I'm not doing this for votes. Can't express that enough. But I'm going to be who I am, and that's all I'm going to be, right? So whether or not that means that I gain your vote or I lose your vote, c'est la vie. It is what it is. Jane Robolowski is a great candidate, and I'm sure she would love your vote. So you know who to vote for if it's not me. Please feel free. Okay? That's what democracy is about. However, that being said, I am going to be true to myself, and that's all I can really do, right? And my job is to protect myself and protect my family, whatever that looks like. All right. So as more and more people are coming on in, let me go ahead and just give us a rundown of what's been happening so far. So, of course, Kitsap Black Student Union had their graduation ceremony for their kids or for their youth. I believe that was June 7th, and the incident took place. I'm not going to go over the incident. You can watch the videos if you want to see what happened. At that point, I set up a restraining order, and court was today. Now, in between the time that I set the restraining order and court, I was reached out to by the other founder of Up From Slavery Initiative, Kendra Galloway, and she sent a response. I will do a podcast on that later and show you that response and or her email or her Facebook Messenger to me and my response to that. But that's later. And so I'll share that out, right? Because one of the things that we need to do is we need transparency and clarity, right? So he said, she said, this happened, that didn't happen. You're going to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, right? And so that's what it is. So anyway, so I responded to her. Time passed. Today was the court date. They did approve the temporary restraining order until the court date, right? The court date was today. We both presented our case. We both had evidence, which of course I will show you that later. You cannot record hearings like that. You can't record them in video or audio. However, you can request the transcript. So I will be requesting the transcript. I will be appealing it. So rest assured that is coming. And then I will share that information out, what was said, because there were a lot of lies that were told in there. One of which, if, as most people know Daryl Riley, they know him to be a pretty self-confident person, I would say, not afraid of anything. But in that, he kind of turned into a proverbial Karen, and I'm 6'4", I'm 350 pounds, and this and that, right? Which I'm not. So it is what it is. An abundance of lies were told, and I had 2 minutes to rebut the lies, and I couldn't even rebut, not even a third of the lies. Talked about it a little bit in the podcast, and then we kind of went from there. So as it's filling up here, which is great. Let's go ahead and share my screen. So after court was over, I went ahead and created a podcast saying, hey, this is what's going on. Wanted to let you guys know that they rescinded the protection order and that I can appeal and what happened. Okay. And then, of course, folks came in and started to respond. Now, the reason why I'm on tonight, like I said, I've got a conference to go to tomorrow. And so I'm preparing for that. And I would much rather be doing that. But the good Dr. Karen Bolton jumped into the fray. I believe right now she is the acting president of Up From Slavery Initiative. And she says, I have known you for a very long time, and I am sick to my stomach. Please stop. You are not doing our community any favors. I vehemently disagree with that. And I believe this is the problem in the Black community, that we have a cancer that must be excised, that it is malignant. How embarrassing. You went to court. The judge said no. So now you still continue? If it was that bad, where's the police report? Okay, now I explain that, right? In the video that I produced, I said I did not want to see Daryl destroyed, right? I didn't want him to lose his contracts. I didn't want him to lose business, none of that. I didn't want him to step down from Up From Slavery. I didn't want him to get mental health counseling. And then after, and only after he did those things and made amends, then he should be restored to where he was before, right? Because I understand that he's come a long way, right? But that's missed in that. Now, in this also, this is the first conversation that I've had with Dr. Bolton, which is one way from her to me, right? It's interesting is that when the camps are separated, right, no one checks on the well-being or the welfare of you or your family or your 11-year-old. But that's neither here nor there. You're running for public office. Yes, it's a question. Is this just a stunt to get more votes? Absolutely not. I am absolutely 1,000% clear I'm going to lose votes for this, right? And as this continues to be ongoing, I'm probably going to lose more votes. I'm going to tell you right now, I do not care if I lose the election. I do not care if I lose the election. This is bigger than the election, okay? And so when we use words like integrity and honesty and things like that, these are just things that we fling around now that have little meaning. Honestly, Watching your video was a waste of time. Dot, dot, dot. If the courts and the police see no merit, then guess what? There's no merit. Grow up and do more to unite. I think there should be an E there. The Black community. Shameful. Okay. So this is Dr. Bolton's feelings on that. And everyone is respected, is entitled to their opinion. However, what they're not entitled to is the facts, right? And I laid the facts out in what I said in the podcast. In the court, Daryl also laid out the facts. Some of it was very similar, but then all of a sudden he began to lie. And again, once I get the transcripts, I will show you that. One of those things was, oh, I was in his face and he could feel my breath on his face. But I'm 6'4", so how could that be if I was towering over him while he was bent down getting juice? I mean, the lies are just ongoing, right? So again, clearly, I don't know what to say. But anyway, what I want to do is I want to play a video. And I think this is really emblematic of what we have going on in the Black community as a whole. Fair use. Shout out again to the Millionaire Morning Show with Anton Daniels. Let me go ahead and enlarge this. Now, if you don't know, Chicago has shootings on a daily basis. The weekends are particularly bad, right? Now, of course, there is no reprieve, there is no holiday. And the day that we are celebrating the slaves being freed, there are Black folks that really don't give a damn. They're going to continue to shoot and kill, right? So let's get into this. Because again, this is what we have here in Kitsap, just on a different level. Now, he's talking about our cultural norms. Our Black, oh, you can't hear it. Oh, sorry about that, Christy. Let me fix that. Man, I had it all set before. See, this is what happens when you're like, I'll be on in 10 minutes. You don't have a chance to get everything set up how you want it. Let's see. How do you not hear that? Okay. Let's see. Hear it now? All right, let me see. All right. All right. Oh, now, can you hear now? up here. No, you still can't hear it, huh? Oh, that's really weird. Oh, you know what I can do? Maybe I can do. That's really weird. You should definitely be able to hear it now. It's my backup emergency. Okay, let's see. Bear with me. I'm almost out here. Man, I apologize, folks. I don't know why you can't hear that. Like the devil don't want me to do the show. But we got to do the show, man. That is so bizarre. All right, let's see. All right. Hold on. Hold your horses. Okay. Man, I don't know. This audio should be good. Pause you real quick. Oh, you know what? Let me undo this really quickly. And maybe that will work. Sorry about this, guys. Like I said, went on here last minute. Not my to do. Oh, that's the problem.
Okay,
All right.
let's
About
choose some stories from outside of Chicago that's around Chicago in order to better assess how egregious our people are operating
now.
when
There
it
we
comes to
go.
the cultural norms that we embrace. So you telling me on the day that y'all supposed to be celebrating each other the most, y'all even got a day outside of February that's not just Black History, and this is what it is that we see? Okay.
All right. So I apologize for that, everyone. Let me go ahead and start this over. Again, fair use. This is probably gonna get uh clipped just because I was letting it play for so long. So when you're listening to someone else's YouTube, you have to. I mean, you could do fair use, but you have to break it up. So it was playing, playing, playing. So Anton, please don't strike me for this. I was trying to get the audio fixed and just let it play. Anyway, shout out to Anton Daniels and the Millionaire Morning Show. Again, based on what I was saying earlier, again, and the whole thing is, I believe this is the big issue here in the Black community, right? And this is very emblematic of what we have going on in here in Bremerton. So let me go ahead and play this here. Again, we know that there are a lot of shootings and murders that happen in our inner cities, especially Chicago. And it is a travesty, of course, that it happens even on Juneteenth, right? So let's go ahead and play.
Mall in unincorporated Willowbrook today, where shortly after midnight, at least 23 people were shot, one of them fatally, in what investigators describe as a peaceful Juneteenth gathering turned violent.
Victims were taken to multiple hospitals in DuPage, Cook, and Will counties. The ages and conditions of victims are not available at this.
He's so nervous. He nervous about saying the wrong thing because he know that y'all gonna hold him accountable if he call y'all a monkey versus the people that actually was doing all of the shooting. He's so nervous to talk to y'all right now. Y'all got white people that's actually trying to investigate and figure out who shot who. Nervous? Nervous? Yo, Deputy Chief Eric Swanson, give us the stats, big dog.
Time.
Now, before he gives the stats, again, I'm responding to you in this way, Karen. Again, if you're just tuning in, the entire point was I want to be very transparent about this particular issue, right? The issue between Daryl and myself. Okay. My life was threatened. I have an 11-year-old that I need to take care of. I have family that's here. I have friends that are here. I have an organization. I have clients that I look out for. And so I've got to protect them. But by and large, I must protect myself for sure. Okay. And as I was saying before, in my response, in the original video that I did, the night that the incident happened, I didn't want his job. I didn't want him to lose contracts. I didn't want him to lose money. I just wanted him to step down from slavery and get help and then return, as I said at the very start of this, right? Instead, what happened was a bunch of lies today. A bunch of lies. And this isn't the first time that it has been insinuated that maybe I'm doing this for votes, right? But we both know that the Black community is already fractured. And so by doing this, there was no way that I could possibly think that this would somehow get me votes, right? Because not only is it going to continue to fracture the Black community, but our allies, our BIPOC allies, our white allies are also going to be on a side, right? And then you're going to have folks that don't have any stake in the game that say, hey, you know what? Marwan, he looks like a pretty good candidate, but you know what? He's got drama going on. So I'm going to go ahead and elect Jane Robolowski. Why? Because she doesn't appear to have the same drama that's going on. So I'm concerned that he won't be able to actually take care of the constituents and fight for the issues that he believes are important for us. So it's ridiculous to think that somehow in my mind that I would think that I would gain votes by doing this. Let's continue.
The motive behind this incident is unclear.
This woman, who did not want to be identified.
What? Just so happened to be a Black woman that decided that they didn't want to be identified. I wonder why they didn't want to be identified. Do you think it's a possibility that this Black woman didn't want to be identified because A, retaliation, B, we have this no snitching culture, or C, all of the above?
A, retaliation, B, no snitching culture, or C, all of the above. Daryl's behavior has gone unchecked for years. There have been a few that have called him out, as has been shared with me. But whether it's pastors or executive directors or employees or on and on and on and on, he has been able to persist unchecked. And why? Because in our Black culture, no snitching, retaliation. So if I speak, I'm going to speak off camera. The day after the incident, Karen, I can't, literally scores of people contacted me. People that I would believe that both of us, all three of us, would respect. And said, Daryl did this. Daryl did that. This happened to me. This happened to this person. This was my experience. Thank you. I couldn't say it because I was a white man and I would get canceled, right? You have no idea how many people have said that. Now, these were allies, and it was all good when they were giving up the money. They were allies then, but if they spoke out and they were critical, then you need to sit back and know your place. This is the problem in our community. This is why we're not further. We made our strides during the civil rights era, and then after that, we took our foot off the gas. And because we won't speak out against the things that are happening in our own community, we make marginal gains. Now, it's public record. Jewel, the executive director of Kitsap Black Student Union, put her post on Facebook. And there was a conversation that took place with Up From Slavery Initiative. And immediately, Daryl recalled the money. That's the retaliation piece. Right? If you're going to lie and say, no, I didn't do that, I'm going to play a victim, I'm going to turn into a proverbial Karen. But we're talking about Daryl beaming up Scotty Riley. When have you ever known him to cower to anyone? Especially to an obese person like myself, right? Because he has said those things. So now all of a sudden there was this fear. It's not reasonable. And we all know this in this community. Has he done good in the community? Yes. Does that undo the bad that he is currently doing? No. So when people love that outspoken, again, it's the black male body being used. See, all of this started with the murder of George Floyd, right? Here comes Up From Slavery. Now we got this opportunity. How many in this community have heard Daryl say, hey, they're giving the money. We got to get this money while the getting is good. So you get the money. Do your thing. But with all of the lessons, the Race and Equity Summit, Carmen Best, Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, post-traumatic slave syndrome. What was actually learned? You would think that the founder might be even more enlightened. But that's not what we saw over the past 2 years. Those aren't the stories over the past 2 years. And it can't be the truth that every person that he interacts with that has a falling out with him for whatever the reason, somehow it's on them and it's never on him. And saying I was a crack addict and this is why I'm a little rough in my delivery and people don't like it doesn't make it okay or excuse it. This community has turned a blind eye for months, for years, because there has been benefit added. But we would be so much further if not for that. And as soon as someone steps up and says, I'm not going to be bullied by the bully, then we attack that person, right? Because it's A, retaliation, B, no snitching, or C, all of the above. Right? It's been reported to me by people in the Black community, oh, he's doing some sucker shit. Okay. Right? That's that toxic Black culture. See, we're so quick as feminists to talk about misogyny, toxic masculinity, but we don't dare talk about toxic Black culture, the parts of it that are toxic, that are destructive. That when those that do change their lives come in and start to make change, they bring some of those elements with them and stall out or retard the movement. So I know, Dr. Bolton, I'm not calling you out. But at this point, again, it really doesn't matter how anyone takes it, because I know that it's probably going to be scorched earth in this county. So I'm not really sure how I can win an election if I am a pariah in the community. But someone has to say enough. If I was someone else, if we were somewhere else, would it have been more than just Darius not being able to get his hands off of me? Right? See how that sounds? I'll give you another analogy here. Oftentimes women actually assault men. I like to consider myself a men's rights activist. And we tell men, you never hit a woman, you just walk away. And if and when they report physical abuse, they're typically laughed at and not taken seriously. So then when I report it, right, what happens? Oh, it wasn't that serious. We go on a campaign to do photo ops with people, right? You got me like this. For those of you that know Darius Sampson, that's a big brother. And he could not remove his hands from me. Daryl wasn't there. Who would that have to be on the other side of that to deserve your empathy or your sympathy? Or maybe I would have gotten it if it was, well, it's just Daryl being Daryl, and it really wasn't that bad. Isn't that what we tell abusers? We have a problem in our community, and we do not address it. And for whatever reason, I'm here at this place at this time now. Again, I'm preparing for a conference tomorrow. And I would much rather be doing that, as it is 9:00 and I got to get on the road early. And so this is not going away. And my daughter is actually staying in Kitsap this summer. She's not actually going to Alabama. So I got to somehow shield her from this at the same time. But many of y'all could give a rat's ass about that. And, well, it's okay. Because we've got some toxic Black culture that is real. It's a present danger. It's why we haven't gotten further. It's why we can't get further. It's why they laugh at reparations. It's why they tire. It's why you see the shipyard with the numbers so low in regards to the percentage of African-American employees. It's why Black men are the most homeless throughout the country. It's why we have the highest illiteracy rates. We lack accountability. We used to be the pinnacle, the paragon, if you will, of America and what was right. And while people are embarrassed and ashamed and is doing harm in the Black community, so they say, the repair has to come from somewhere. Remember, we tried the Black Collective. We had 2, 3 meetings. Some Black folks were like, my name is Bennett, I ain't coming to that. Some came, and really were more interested in making sure that their grievances were heard. One of the things that Daryl is good for is yelling at people and then walking away when they try to respond. Christy says, what message does it send to your daughter if you aren't allowed to protect your safety or are attacked for doing so? Yeah, absolutely. That's 1,000% correct. It's so interesting how callous and unthoughtful the Black community can get, right? In the post, Dr. Bolton says, I've known you for a long time. Now I'm just dirt on the shoe. Again, I want to be crystal clear. This has nothing to do with this election. As you can see, this is definitely going to cost votes. This is going to be an ongoing thing. The lines have been drawn, and many people that tell me behind the scenes that they're with me and thank you. Many of them will also fall back into old routines of going along to get along, of let's just try to move forward. And because we will not address the elephant in the room, we are just doomed to repeat the cycle again and again. So the next time that there's a threat of either physical violence or of resources, what happens then? Do we just go back to, oh, it was just Daryl being Daryl? Oh, it's post-traumatic slave syndrome. Oh, we just need to get along. Oh, we need restorative justice. We just need to rise above it. But we don't have a social contract with each other. We have no way to hold each other accountable. I should do it now just because now it's hard for me to focus on my presentation tomorrow in Seattle. But when Kendra Galloway reached out to me as the other founder of Up From Slavery Initiative, there was no, hey, are you okay? Is your family okay? It was, I hope you're doing well. Hey, you should have called me. Here's my phone number. Take down the video. Self-preservation. So many people have worked so hard. So I didn't work hard building G2. I didn't work hard with the podcast. I didn't work hard to put myself into a position to do the things that I've been doing for decades. See, a month ago, I was cool with you, right? No issues. It's all good. Today, I'm public enemy number one in the Black community. Well, to some. Christy says, there's a James Baldwin quote about this phenomenon. I don't want to miss the quote, though. If you find it, please post it there. So again, when I first started the podcast, someone asked me, are you ready for what that means? Because people are going to attack you. And for some of our shows, we got some racist things that came through on the chat. You got to block people, right? I will tell you, I didn't think it would come from my own community. But it is what it is. And again, for whatever reason, it's me. So it's got to be done. There's no money that you can pull from me. You can't withdraw your business from me, as you might not have been patronizing my business anyway. So if somehow you believe that with all your learned knowledge, and I'm not speaking to Karen, I'm just speaking out generally, post-traumatic slave syndrome, adverse child ACEs, whatever it is. If you can't see past the issues that persist in our community, I joked and I said that I'm going to be the Nat Turner of Kitsap County, which means I'm going to call to light the meritorious manumissions. If you believe that United Way is the slave master and you wanted to be the one to hold the bag or the proverbial whip, what difference does it make? Or does it make it worse that it is another black man ripping your flesh open? Now that's graphic. I know Daryl said in court today, he was like, well, he's reading. I read because I want to make sure that I'm measured, that I'm speaking in fact, that I'm not getting too emotional and going off track, because that can not be helpful, right? Today, I'm just freewheeling it. And I have that. So you guys will have to decide. You can decide to try to destroy me, dig it all up, push it all out there. You can try to ostracize me. You can do what you will. You can campaign against me. You can vote for my opponent. But at least 23 were shot and 1 was killed. And the woman on the screen wants to remain anonymous. Why? Because she doesn't want to become a victim. Sound familiar? Why? Because she probably knows the perpetrator. Sound familiar? Chicago, just like Kitsap County. The difference is the guns are words and actions. If we want to change, I was just telling someone today, we have a fantastic opportunity. We really do. We have this unique opportunity. And it can go one or two ways. It can unite the black community in a way that has never been united in Kitsap before. Should cooler heads prevail and wisdom win out. It can also create a strong black community, at least a part of it, because those that are so vehemently against what I'm talking about today will band together and become even more of a solid core. Circle the wagons, if you will. Pool their resources. Really start working together, supporting each other, spending dollars within their businesses. See, that's still a win. That's still a win. At the end of the day, for all of you out there listening, at the end of this, I've already won. There's nothing you can say or do at this point. You can destroy me. You can destroy my character. You can do whatever you want. I've already won. I've stood up to the bully. I brought it into the light. There have already been consequences for it. And now the next person that is bullied knows that they have a voice. So he's likely to be on his best behavior for a while. I'm actually probably pretty safe right now for a while, maybe. Unless, like I said, he didn't want to make me a martyr, which was his words. So someone who is in his corner might cape for him and act out. And say, "Oh, nothing to do with that." But I've already won. So the question is what are you going to do, Black community? Are you going to use this to galvanize yourselves, to create a social contract, to find a way to move forward, to actually deal with your bullshit, to use a little bit of French? If you notice, I don't really curse. So again, that was another lie that he said at the NAACP or at Doc's event. One, Robert Harris was there. Two, my daughter was with me. And I don't curse around my daughter. I mean, the lies just kept coming and coming and coming. I'd had more respect if he just told the truth. Just said, "Hey, yeah, I was pissed off. This is what it was." But instead he lied. This can galvanize the Black community. This can allow us to do something different. We are due for a serious emergency management crisis. And we're so fractured. So if we have the earthquake, if the peninsula is cut off, if Gorst is washed away, or our elders, or our disabled, or our young, are we going to be able to care for them? Are we even in a position to do it? If it happened tomorrow, COVID in a lot of ways was a trial run, and it showed us lacking. There's so much work to do. But people love to hate and people love to fight. So it could be the summer of love or it could be the summer of fight. It's up to y'all. But everything I do, understand, will not be in any private emails or private text or a private phone call. So if you respond to me in any way, I am likely to come on live. Because the one thing that people need to see is either the true dysfunction of this Black community and the so-called leaders that have allowed it to persist and percolate and metastasize, or they get to see us heal and move forward and build the scaffolding and the contract and the example that others can follow, especially the generations behind us that need actual conflict resolution skills, that need emotional intelligence, that need forgiveness, that need love, that need to know, and I've said this about Daryl quite a few times, there's nothing to prove. He had his life, he lived it, he did some bad stuff, he changed, he's done a lot of good. There's nothing to prove. At least 23 shot, 1 killed. Tomorrow's Wednesday. How many deaths tomorrow? And do we care? Maybe we don't because it's not here. It's Chicago, it's LA, it's New York, it's New Orleans, it's St. Louis. We're above that, right? But these are your cousins. These are the foundational Black Americans. These are the African descendants of slavery. Do you really care? That's rhetorical. I'm Marwan Cameron. This is The Conduit. Take care of yourself and take care of each other.